I like to subscribe to all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called The Lost Daughter. 2 hours long. Spoiler alert. Let's just get it. So it starts with this lady by the name of Alita. She's a professor in social studies and she's taking a vacation. Nice little spot. This guy by the name of Kyle helps her in. Apparently he's been taking care of the entire island. I swear I've seen him in so many movies that I cannot remember his name. Oh, of course, Ed Harris. Why I couldn't think of his name? He was in movies like The Rock with Sean Connery. Too many movies I can't even count, honestly. Well, anyway, she gets settled in. Next day enjoying a nature hike. And then hits the beach. Then we got this guy named Will. He works at the beach house. He asks to move a chair and an umbrella real quick. But why is that so important for him to do? Because apparently this family's coming through and they own the whole villa. And here we have Nina and her daughter Elena. They're just chilling at the beach. But while she's staring at him so fiercely, she gets back to her spot at night and she finds out the fruit is moldy as hell. Next day we see Nina talking to a bunch of guys and speaking in Italian. Lita sees her go down, but as the audience, we have no idea what they said. Now when Nina and Elena are chilling by the beach, Elena's always got this doll with her. This doll coming to play later. Then out of nowhere, Lita has a breakdown. She started thinking about her kids and decided to give them a call. So at this stage of the game, she's 48 years old, and her kids are named Bianca and Melissa, both 25 and 23 years old. One night she was walking in the middle of her sleep. It was a damn cicada next to her bed. She tossed that shit out and went back to sleep. I don't know why she didn't close the window after tossing it, but whatever. Next day she goes out swimming. She's actually swimming in the water this time. And the rest of Nina's family comes through with this big ass boat. We found out her husband Carlos is on the boat. He gets there in time for his daughter Elena's birthday. Later on this later, Carrie comes up to Alita, asks her does she mind moving. Because apparently they need extra space for the family to all sit around together. But Alita ain't trying to move, she's very stubborn. So then Carrie gets pissed off and walks away. But then she comes back and apologizes for her behavior. Then they get to talking. So apparently Carrie was pregnant and she's got a little girl on the way in about another 2 months. She tells her to have a great birthday. She still doesn't eat the cake that she gives her. She had took it at first, but didn't take any bites. This is when she's walking back through home in the woods. What the fuck happened to her? Well, apparently she got hit by an acorn. Now I'm gonna say this right now. Whether it fell off a tree or somebody threw it at her, there's no way an acorn would cause this type of fucking damage to her back. Like seriously, just look at that, yo. It's like a fucking hole in her back. From a pine cone? Really? Later on, she's exploring the town. She goes to this little bar spot. Ends up meeting it with Kyle again. They get to talking and all that. The vibe of the conversation gives me the fact that he's trying to slide off at some senior citizen cheeks. That doesn't really take place here, though, even though she does start speaking in his ear in Italian. Next day, she's back on the beach and she sees that Nina and Carlos are having problems. They're arguing about something. While that's going on, Elena looks frustrated playing with her doll. Next thing we know, Lita takes a nap for a minute, and she wakes up to all this commotion. Come to find out Nina can't find her daughter, so they got everybody around looking for her. Now, the thing is, if you look to the bottom, she didn't take her doll. So where the fuck is Elena at? So then everybody goes on a search. It definitely triggers Lita because it flashbacks to a time when she couldn't find one of her kids. Well, anyway, she searches through the woods and finds Elena playing in the dirt. Apparently, she was looking for her mom and got lost. Then she came by to say thank you, and Elena was in the background crying. I'm like, why is that? Because apparently her doll went missing. She's like, yeah, it's all gravy, just keep your eye on her, you know what I'm saying? Carrie comes back and thanks her too. Then she sees the spot on Lita's back and then gives her some ointments and stuff. And there were times where Nina would just awkwardly stare at her for some reason. I'm like, what's the reason for that? So Lita ends up going back to the car. But when she checks her purse, she finds out she's got the fucking doll in her purse. What's it doing in there? Why'd it get there? But instead of giving it back, she ends up going to the hotel with it. Why? Then while she's at the villa, we get a couple flashbacks to when she was monitoring her kids. I mean, I guess she loves her kids, but you get the sense that she never really wanted kids. Then I was wondering at one point in time, was she doing this all by herself? Later on, she runs into Will. He's studying business and to be a professor too. So they got something in common. Later on, they go to dinner to get to chatting. And Will tells her, hey, if that family tells you to do anything, just go ahead and do it. He says they basically own the villa and they're not very good people. So then she's thinking to herself, what do you mean they're not very good people? They were appreciative when they found Elena. They haven't really done nothing wrong to them yet or anything. So what's really good with this shit? Then we get a flashback and we find out she did have a husband back then. Some dude by the name of Lewis. And they were both busy with their kids. One of them ended up cutting himself trying to peel an orange. She cleans her up, but then she's getting frustrated with everything. So it seems like back then she really wasn't ready for kids, but she was holding on to her responsibilities. She goes back home, she's hanging onto this doll, and it's got like these weird marks on it. Then she ends up hiding it in the cupboard. Later goes to this shop and she's buying stuff for the doll, but then Carrie walks in. See, they was having a conversation about grandkids, but she had already told Carrie that her daughters are 25 and 23. So what was she doing shopping for toy store stuff? Then Nina comes in too. Now apparently Elena had a fever or something like that. That's the reason why she was crying. But she really was a doll back. Apparently Nina hasn't been able to get some sleep ever since Elena's doll's been missing. So she keeps waking her up in the middle of the night. The Carrie starts asking her certain questions and then Lita almost collapses in the store. Then we flash back again. Then we get a scene where she's running out of patience with Bianca. Bianca was smacking her to get her attention. She's like, yeah, you don't do that. She puts her in her room and she slams the door so hard that the windows break. I'm like, oh shit. Is she remorseful for her actions or is she just that frustrated? Then we get a flashback of the family all chilling, just enjoying life and whatnot. And he ended up partially giving her the business because she was left unsatisfied. So she barely wanted to deal with her kids. She wasn't being satisfied by her husband. Those are grounds for an unhappy lady. So one day back then when he was fixing breakfast, they ended up seeing some hikers out in the road. We found this guy's got 3 kids, but they were his ex-wife. And that's his girlfriend. They basically been hiking around the country. She didn't approve of letting them in at first, but, they get some drink in them. She started loving him. And at that point, she didn't even want him to go. Later on, she's going through a closet. She's trying to get the marks off the doll. Then she gets a ring at the door. It's Kyle, and he wants her to try some octopus. They get to talking, to chilling, and to falling asleep. He wakes up to take a smoke and he sees the doll down there. Now, why is this significant? Well, one, he knows she has the doll, and two, the family just put out a reward for it. A reward for a fucking doll. Why a reward? Does it have diamonds in it or something? Does it have some crazy artifacts inside the doll? Why would they put a reward out for a regular ass doll? Later on, she goes through the woods and sees all these posters everywhere about this damn doll. So she's walking through the woods, she sees this pink villa. Will had said something about living there once upon a time. So I think she's about to call Nina and tell her about the doll. But apparently she was in the vicinity and Nina's fucking with, well, what is this? The cheating, the scandals. Lita hung up the phone, was like, man, fuck that shit. Then we flash back and she's talking to somebody about a presentation. Lewis is already doing a job somewhere, so she needs somebody to watch the kids. So she hires a nanny to get it cracking. So she makes it to a trip and she's got to help the professor with his speech. She did that, everything was all good and gravy. But she goes to see another presentation by this dude named Nadal. Nadal's actually reciting a lot of Lita's old stuff. A lot of poems and journalistic integrity and all that stuff. What's this? You feeling him? You feeling him a little bit too much? Apparently she was, because she got to talking to him until the professor interrupts her and says, you gotta go to a dinner meeting in like 20 minutes. Then we go to real time. She's in a one-on-one conversation with Carlos. She's like, hey man, you're a nice guy, but could you get out my car? Come to find out she forgot what her car looked like. That's not even a car. Her car was 2 cars down. I'm like, wow. He's like, yeah, get it together, lady. Oh, by the way, thanks for Elena. Flashback to the dinner. After while everybody left, now it's just Lita and Adele talking to each other, so you already know what's about to happen. He ended up giving her the business because she wanted it. But damn, y'all couldn't even went to a room, y'all had to do it in the hallway, like really? Then she went back home to her kids like nothing happened. Back in real time, Lady is going to a movie theater, and the loudmouth niggas come in causing a damn ruckus. Hey, shut the hell up, we try to watch a movie. So she threatens to call the usher. They get quiet when the usher comes in, but damn, she don't really do shit about it. She just like peeping in with a fucking flashlight. Soon as she leaves, back to the noise again. Then she just spasses out. Then the father comes out of nowhere, is like, hey, enough of that shit. Then they get quiet and watch the movie. But at that point, she's so pissed off, she just gets up and leaves anyway. Then the flashback, we just got scenes with her and her kids, and also doing her side action with Nadal. She be getting it popping all the time with him now. Back in real time, somebody rings the doorbell, but nobody answers. So at this point, you think those boys are fucking with her right now. So she goes to the marketplace and she ends up meeting up with Nina once again. There she is. So right at the back, Nina felt like she had a connection with Lita, and she explained she don't even like being around her kids all the time either, which is kind of what Lita was feeling. But then she asked her what happened at the toy store that day. So Lita confesses when her kids were like 5 and 7 years old, she pretty much abandoned them for like 3 years. Pretty sure she was probably just doing her own thing, smashing the doll, and all that shit. She said her mom and her husband was watching the kids. Then we flash back to the day where she left her kids. The funny thing is, he already knew about Nadal, but he didn't care. He just wanted her to stay because he didn't know how he could deal with kids by himself. But he said if she leaves, then hell, he'll bring her to her mother's house. Then she said, hell no, you're not going to bring her to my mother. You know what I had to get through to get away from her. But you got to think to yourself, she was cheating on her husband. She's about to dip off to do her journalist stuff. And you're going to tell him he can't go to your mom's because he's going to need help? He's like, no, fuck you. I'm taking the kids to mom's house. You was the one doing dirt. Fuck out of here. She got her kids dressed up, chilled with them for 5 more minutes, and then she dipped out. Back in real time, she's trying to pick through this doll. Finds out there was a worm in it, or a snake, or something. So like, okay, whatever, but why is this doll worth money? Again, why do you need a reward for this shit? And yes, they never showed anything else inside that fucking doll. So basically, some rich people bullshit. Later on, she gets dressed up and goes to a dance-off and meets Kyle there. They was having fun for a little bit until the family showed up, looking at her. Do they want beef? Because of that dumbass movie theater incident? Then when she's going back to her villa, she goes back and sees Will there. He asks her could he use the villa for a little bit. She says, you can use it all you want after I leave because I ain't gonna be sticking around here much longer. Next morning, she gets a knock at the door. Turns out it was Nina. She had to sneak over because they was out shopping. And she feels like she has a real connection with Lita. That is until Lita brings out the doll and says she had it the whole time. She tells her it's not like she found it, she just had it. And Nina asks what was the reason. She was like, just playing a game. So Lita's like, you know what, give me my doll, get the fuck out of here with this shit. You know how many nights I couldn't sleep? Then she just spazzed out. But when she had to leave it, she stabbed her with something. I'm like, what the fuck? She stabbed it with some type of long-ass pen. I'm like, oh, shit. So we're thinking to ourselves, damn, is she gonna just die right there? Next thing we know, she's packing up her bag. She's getting the hell out of there. She can't even carry him down the steps. She just kicks him down the steps. But at one point in time, she's driving and falling asleep on the road. We're like, oh, my God, she's gonna crash into something. But no, she stopped her car. She went over by the beach. Yeah, just went over by the beach. And all of a sudden, she just collapsed there. I was like, oh, shit. She woke up the next day. Apparently, the stab wound wasn't that bad. And she called her daughters to see how they were doing. They were doing fine. And that's it. So I would say this is one of those psychological dramas or something. But it's based on books and it was an Oscar nominee, so there you go. The Lost Daughter on Netflix. Check it out. Like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. Look, these are the easy best stars. Big, you got this slogan.